Hello, welcome to 10 at 10. My name is Michael Ramage, and this is 10 at 10. 10 at 10 is brought to you through a partnership between Murray State University, Grow West, the Technology Council of West Kentucky, KY Innovation, and our local partner, Sprocket Innovation in Paducah, and the Kentucky Innovation Station in Madisonville. Last week, we started what's going to be a multi-week series talking about computer security incident response. Last week, we talked about the preparation phase. This week, we're going to talk about the detection and the analysis phase. And this is a really complicated piece. There are experts that are working in this area, making a ton of money working through this. So before we dive into this next section today, I want to make it really clear that I am sharing this from the perspective of you're a small business owner. You're the tech person for a business that doesn't have the resources to hire some of these experts. I'm going to actually touch on why I think you should, even though that you don't think it's a priority, as we get through some of today and even into the next few weeks. But there are so many things that we could go into. We have classes. We have most of our degree is focused on handling incidents. So this is a really complicated topic that I'm trying to boil down into as close to 10 minutes as I can. So please understand that while we're talking about this, the incident response or incident handling today, there are so many pieces that really make this issue a really complicated thing. So I want you to understand that we're only touching really the surface. So as I mentioned, this week we're going to talk about the detection and the analysis phase. I'm going to highlight some of those pieces of what that means, what you need to be thinking about, and maybe even where you turn to for help. First of all, we got to think about how they're attacking the attack vectors. How are they getting into our system? External removable drives. How many times have you heard a story about somebody that took a USB drive at a conference, or they found it in the parking lot, plugged it in, and they got malware? Attrition's where we attack system resources. The easiest example of attrition is a distributed denial of service attack that we attack. We get so many, or the adversary, that they get so many computers to request resources at the exact same time that your server's just overwhelmed and you can't do anything about it. Web and email vectors are still probably the most common, or among the most common. It's because a user clicked a link or they opened an email attachment. You've heard me talk about that on here just about every week, if not every week, every other week. Um, Impersonation, whether that is through social engineering, or even from a technical standpoint, it is impersonating somebody else. Maybe it's your quote CEO that calls and asks you for something when it's really not your CEO. They just say that it is. Improper usage is if an employee or a user is not using the technology the way the acceptable use policy or your security policies think that it should, or state that it should. That can cause problems, loss and theft, and there's others as well, but those are among the most common. So if we think about those attack vectors, again, this section is on detection and analysis. First of all, how do we detect? Or maybe the question is, what do we detect? So we're looking for signs that an incident has happened, and signs of an incident. And there's really two different types of signs that we could look for. We could look for precursors. Precursors are those signs that an event may occur an incident rather may occur in the future. So maybe we find an incident, or find signs or in a log file that people are scanning our firewall. Well, it happens a lot, and maybe it's from certain IP addresses that known to be bad, or maybe it's coming from a foreign country, or there's a number of different ways, but it is an indicator that an attack or an incident may occur in the future. That's a precursor sign. Or an indicator is a sign that an incident may have occurred in the past or is occurring right now. We'd rather have the precursor signs than the indicator signs, but we're looking for both. We're actively trying to find both of these, or detect both of these types of signs. So How do you detect them? Where are you looking? They're detected in a variety of ways. Probably the one that if you're in security, or actually if you've talked to a security person, they may talk about the most, or one of these three: an intrusion prevention system, an intrusion detection system, and I'll explain briefly what those are, which may be a host, meaning it's on an endpoint computer, or it's on a device, or it's on the network looking at network traffic. The primary difference between a prevention system and a detection system is, well, first, they both look for a sign of an incident. They're both looking for that anomaly. They're looking at, here's what our baseline says it's supposed to look like. Does it look like that, or is it something else? If it's that something else, is that bad? What is that? What is the reason for it to look uh, like there might be an incident? In a detection system, it raises a flag and says, "Oh, there's something bad that might be going on. Come look at it." In a prevention system, it'll actively do something. So it's programmed, and you program it, you set it up, but it's programmed to, if it detects this, then take these steps. So it'll actively block it, or it'll actively do something about it, quarantine it, or whatever that might be. So there's some things that it can do to help stop that. Um, and before I go any further, let me stop and say, incident detection and analysis is hard. What we're talking about today is hard to do really well. There are thousands and millions of people that are around the world working in what's called security operations centers, that are actively trying to detect security incidents and provide that analysis for what happened with those incidents. This is really hard to do. So we're talking about this, and for a small business, maybe you can do it. I would guess that you probably can't do it well. And there are managed service providers in our region and around the country that can monitor your network, not just to help you if you have a problem with Windows, but there are managed security service providers that focus on looking and trying to detect an incident on your network, and try to provide that first analysis that we're going to talk about on your network. So they're trying to help you do some of this work. If you're a business, a small business, even a larger business that doesn't have that expertise, that only has a couple of IT people, and you're not engaged with a managed service provider, send me a note and let me help you figure out how to move forward, because this is a really complicated piece. And we're going to talk about it, and we're going to talk about some things that even you in a small business can do, but this is really something that you need to think about engaging with professionals to help you with this piece of the puzzle, because it is hard to do it really well. And we're continuing to learn about it, and we're continuing to teach our students, and continuing to find new ways to improve the way we provide that education and instruction to our students. So this is really a hard piece. Part of how you do that, the part of the way that you help with this analysis and help with this understanding, is to understand your network. You got to profile your networks and your systems. You got to understand your normal behaviors. You got to have a log retention policy, event correlation, filter data, run packet sniffers, keep all your clocks synchronized, maintain a base knowledge of information. If you have an incident that you're analyzing, use the internet for research. It's there. Let's use it to figure out what we need to know, and ask for help. Ask for help. Ask professionals for help on this. You want to make sure that you are going to protect your business and your organization. You may need to ask for help. It's just a reality. So as you go through this analysis, and as you go through these next few phases that we're going to talk about in the coming weeks, part of what you have to do is document the incident. You've got to document it. You've got to document it because it is possible that you're going to have to pursue legal action. Now, you've already contaminated, the crime scene in that incident, for that incident, but if you document it, maybe that'll help. But you've got to understand what happened. But if you don't understand what happened and what you've done, then you may not know the extent that the adversary was in your organization, your organization's network. Prioritize the incident. Look at the functional impact. Look at the information impact. Think about the recoverability. If it is just a virus that somebody received on the computer, your antivirus caught it, quarantined it. Okay, not a big deal. That's not something that you want to raise the flag to wake up your CEO in the middle of the night. But you've got to prioritize every incident, and there should be a notification plan. If it reaches this level of an incident, then who should be called? If it goes to the next level, who should be called? If it goes up even higher, who should be called? Should law enforcement be called? Is it just an internal notification? Should your lawyers be reached out to? There's a lot of pieces that go into this notification piece. Don't overlook it. Don't overlook it. All right, so we're out of time for today. Next week, we'll talk about the containment, eradication, and recovery phase of this. And if you'll notice this graphic again, it's loops inside of loops, and this is a process that you're always refining. If you have an incident, first of all, hopefully you've prepared so you know how to handle that incident. Because if it's a bad incident, you're going to be as I shared last week, having a really bad day and trying to think through all these pieces. So you want to make sure that you do that and think through that. Um, and um, but this is a iterative process. So you're going to continue to refine it. But next week we'll talk about our next phase. And I appreciate you joining us today on 10 at 10. I hope you found this enjoyable and that you learned something. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. Thank you very much for joining and have a good day. Thank you.